Hey guys, this is Matt Lamarca from FantasyLabs and the Action Network. And today I'm going to walk you through the lineup optimizer and some of the other lineup building tools that we have within the NBA models. If you're looking for a more basic tutorial video on just what some of the metrics within the models mean, what some of these numbers mean, we already have that walkthrough video out there. So I would recommend starting with that one if you are looking for some just introduction to what these models are. But now that you know what the metrics are, it's time to put them to use. It is time to build some lineups, and that's what we're ultimately aiming to do here, right? We're trying to build the lineups and win all the money. So let's start here with the lineup optimizer. You can find that if you click lineup builder here. This is a single lineup optimizer. We have it available for DraftKings, FanDuel, Fantasy Draft, Yahoo, and the DraftKings Showdown format. Again, you can always change your slate here. If you're on like a Showdown slate, for example, there's normally more than one game to choose from. So we're on the main slate here. It's just a 2-game slate on Thursday. So let's get started with DraftKings. The big thing to remember here is that you're going to have to lock in 2 players. DraftKings makes you lock in 2 players before optimizing. So that's just something to keep in mind if you're like, why is this not working? Make sure you have 2 players locked in. You can optimize by a variety of different metrics here. We have rating, projected points, ceiling, floor, projected plus minus, points per salary, pro trends, my trends, and you can use actual points if you're looking at a historical slate and you want to see just what the highest scoring possible lineup was. So let's start just by looking at rating. You can also change how low you're willing to let the salary cap go. You can make it 98%, you can make it 90%, or you could even make it 100% and force it to spend the full salary cap if that's what you'd like to do. On DraftKings here, you can also choose how you want to attack the flex position. So you can take out shooting guards, for example, if you only want to have a point guard listed in the guard position. You can take out small forwards if you only want a power forward there. And then the same thing goes for the utility section. So let's just lock in 2 players here. We'll go with Porzingis and Doncic tonight for the Dallas Mavericks. We're going to keep everything else the same. And it's going to spit us out the optimal lineup given the parameters that we've selected. If we want to change things up, let's say we want to build by the highest ceiling. Again, we can clear that out. We can go with Porzingis and Doncic again. And this time, the lineup is going to be a little bit different. We're spending 49.9 instead of 49.8. And you can see that this column has changed to the ceiling numbers because that's what we are optimizing for. You can do a lot of the same things, obviously, with some of the other sites. The big difference being you do not have to lock any players in on FanDuel, on Fantasy Draft, or on Yahoo. It's really only DraftKings where you have to worry about selecting 2 players. All right, let's now check out the multi-lineup tool. This is what you're going to want to use if you're building, a good volume of lineups to enter in a particular tournament. You're going to find that here under multi-lineups. We have, again, another bunch of criteria here to start with. So let's say you want 100 lineups. You can change that to whatever number from 2 to 150 is really where you would want to cap it. Again, you can change what you want to build by: rating, projected points, ceiling, floor, etc. This unique players function. So this is just going to identify how many players need to be different in a lineup in order for it to qualify as unique. So if you have it set at 1, you can have 2 lineups that have all of the same players with 1 difference. If you go to 2, they would have to have 2 differences, and so on. The diversification slider here is interesting. What this does is it's going to increase the randomness in your player pool. So let's say you're building by projected rating and you want 100 lineups. If you slide it down to 0, the lineup builder is literally going to give you the 100 most optimal lineups by rating. It doesn't matter if it repeats the same players, in 5 lineups 100 times, it's going to do that. If you move the slider up a little bit, you're going to see a wider selection of players to try and cover a larger portion of the player pool. So they're going to go a little bit further away from optimal to try and give you a larger spread of players. Minimum salary cap, again, is just how low the optimizer can go. Max is how high. Max exposure is the maximum exposure for any one particular player. So if you have it at 100, it will allow you to have one player or more in any given lineup. If you change it to 50, the max that you'll see any one player show up in a lineup is 50, and so on. Max players per same team. The default setting is 3 here. On a slate like this, where it's only 2 games to choose from, you might want to increase that to 4, or else you're going to have, some difficulties reaching a high number of lineups. We'll come back to groups. You have, again, you can select your utilities, your guards, your forward positions. And then similar to how we had an issue with the optimizer, you're going to need to at least lock in 2 players, like or unlike 2 players, or set exposure to 2 players on DraftKings. So that's pretty easy. You can do the same thing we just did. You can lock in Porzingis and Doncic, but that means those players are going to be in all of your lineups. You could also set exposures here. So for minimum, let's say we want anywhere between 50 and 100% of Porzingis, and same for Doncic. That would also accomplish what we need to get the lineups built. Or if you want to do the simplest thing, you can simply just unlike 2 of the lowest rated players, and that will also achieve what we're looking for. So, okay, so let's generate 100 lineups now. We'll start with the diversification slider at like a 2, and we'll see what that does for our lineups here. You can see at the top, it'll tell you how many lineups have been generated and what the average rating on those lineups are. And it's going to be a little bit slower depending on what you have the diversification slider at. Okay, so here are our lineups. It'll show you the actual ownership of those players. So we have Lou Williams in 90 of our 100 lineups, Porzingis in 88, Bryant in 87, and etc. That'll get to tell you how much projected leverage you're going to have on the field given their projected ownership. If you want to trim those lineups down a little bit, let's say we only want 70% max on Lou Williams. We can just type that in, click the save, and let's generate the lineups again. This time we're going to have only 70% of Lou Williams. So that's one way to do it. I mean, and if you wanted to do the lineups a little bit faster, you can crank it up. Let's just go all the way to 10. Why not? It should spit these lineups out pretty quickly. And as you'll see, we don't have any of those same, high ownership type guys. I mean, Porzingis tops out at 64%, but we're going to cover a large portion of the field here. So just a couple of different ways that you can use this multi-lineup builder. And it's going to be the same for all the different websites. When you have a set of lineups that you like, you can tag them if you like. I'll call these run number 1 and save them. And they will show up in your My Lineups page. Last thing I want to go over here is groups. Let's say that you have a group of players that you want to play together. So let's say I want to stack up this game between the Mavericks and the Clippers. So I'm going to target Porzingis, Lou Williams, Doncic, Patrick Beverley, and Tim Hardaway Jr. So let's say I want to just generate a bunch of lineups with all those players together. One way is to lock them in. You could do that and then just build them out, but you could also save them to your groups. Let's say, again, you're building 100 lineups and you want 50 with that core group of players. You can just type in 50% exposure. Let's clear that out now. Let's go back to the multi-lineup tool. Let's clear these lineups out. Now we're going to check this box here that says use my groups. Let's turn it down to an 8 this time. And let's do it by a projected ceiling just to see if it's any different. And again, let's generate these lineups. All right, so this time you'll see we have a pretty high concentration of those 5 guys that we selected as a group. Beverly is the low man here at 52%, but you can check his lineups and you'll see that basically every lineup that he's in, he's going to be in with these 4 guys. So let's tag these as groups. Save them. Now let's go to the lineup page. We can display our lineup tags. Let's look at the group lineups. And let's search for Patrick Beverly. If we view our exposures here, you're going to see that basically all of the guys that he's stacked with are the guys that are popping with him in the same lineup. So that is going to do it for the multi-lineup builder and the lineup optimizer and the stacks tool. Again, if you're looking for more just a basic use or a basic tutorial of what these models mean and what some of the metrics mean, make sure to check out the tutorial I have already done on that. But anyway, good luck to you guys. Hope to see you at the top of the leaderboards, and happy Thanksgiving.